Hi everyone, this is the video for April 8th. This is the last day before spring break, and your goal today is to read Act 2, the prologue, and scenes 1 and 2. You'll notice if you're watching this video from the handout, the workbook page for today, it only has the prologue and scene 2. Scene 1 is like really short and not very much happens, so we're kind of going to skip over it, both in the packet and reading. Just skim through it. It's only like 15 to 30 lines, so you can just knock it out. But we're mostly going to focus on the prologue and Act 2, Scene 2. Additionally, you do have homework over break. It's not very much. You could finish it like tomorrow on Thursday. It's just to read Act 2, Scenes 3 and 4, and then complete packet page 17, so the next page. The only other thing you're going to do at the end, this is page 16. This is also for today. So you're going to do these 2 pages today, do page 17, the next page, either tomorrow or at some point over break. You'll see that assignment posted tomorrow, but it won't be due until April 19th, the day before we get back. So let's dive in then to Act 2, the prologue and Scene 2. I'm going to briefly read the prologue, explain a couple things, and then give you a kind of a synopsis overview of Scene 2, which is really funny and arguably one of the kind of the most classic, famous scenes in all of Shakespeare and certainly in this play. So here's the prologue. Shakespeare says, this is kind of the narrator's bit. Now old desire doth in his deathbed lie, and young affection gapes to be his heir. That fair for which love groaned for and would die, with tender Juliet matched, is now not fair. Now Romeo is beloved and loves again, alike bewitched by the charm of looks, but to his foe supposed he must complain, and she steals love's sweet bait from fearful hooks. Being held a foe, he may not have access to breathe such vows as lovers use to swear, and she, as much in love, her means much less, to meet her new beloved anywhere. But passion lends them power, time means to meet, tempering extremities with extreme sweet. All right, Shakespeare's again kind of setting the stage. He's telling us roughly what's going to happen in Act 2 and beyond, and his main points are this, okay? Old desire is dead. In other words, Romeo's old desire for Rosalind is gone. So all we know is that before this play, he was in love with Rosalind, and he thought he could never love anybody else again, but now he's seen Juliet for all of 2 to 3 minutes, and he's convinced that now she's the one, he's in love with her. She also loves him. So Romeo is beloved and loves again. So she loves him and he loves her, is what that's basically saying. But they're going to have some difficulties, right? Because they are held a foe, which basically means that they are enemies of each other. His dad doesn't like her family. Her dad doesn't like his family. They're not allowed. They don't have access to meet with each other, talk with each other, spend time together. And as it says here, breathe such vows as lovers used to swear. So in other words, like, they don't have those opportunities to hang out and say, I love you, no, I love you, no, I love you, I love you too, I love you more. They don't, excuse me, they don't have phones. They could, I guess, like send letters back and forth, but they're going to have some difficulty interacting with each other. And actually it says here that she, Juliet, her means to meet him are much less. So she's going to have a more difficult time meeting him even than he would have meeting her. What it's really getting at there is like she's kind of locked in the house. Her dad like doesn't really let her go out on her own. He's very protective and kind of controls her life. So she's pretty stuck. He, on the other hand, has a little bit more freedom. Even as you saw, he kind of snuck out to go to this party at the end of Act 1. So he clearly has some freedom to do what he wants. And that's primarily what we're going to see here in Act 2, Scene 2. Act 1, Scene 1, just to lead into this, Romeo kind of ditches his friends on the way home. They think that he's like so drunk that he like falls into a bush and like disappears into the night. The reality is he actually goes back to Juliet's house, back to the Capulet estate, jumps over the wall, and then, to put this delicately, creeps on her and stares at her through the window. Now, this is not recommended. It's also like 3 a.m., so definitely don't do that in your life ever. But that's what Romeo chooses to do. He's hiding in the bushes outside of her room, and Juliet is standing on the balcony, basically like at the window, and she's talking to herself. This is kind of her famous soliloquy, if you remember that term from last week. It's a monologue and an aside mixed together, so she's telling the audience how she feels, but Romeo is overhearing her. He's eavesdropping, and he hears everything that she says. And Juliet happens to say that she loves Romeo. And so if Romeo ever came back, if she ever saw Romeo again, that she would want to marry him basically on the spot. Now, Romeo, hearing this, is like, oh, shoot, this is the best. I thought she would barely even know who I was. I thought maybe I wouldn't even register on her radar, but now she's saying, I just heard her say that she loves me. And so Romeo's like, all right, this is awesome. So he steps out of the bushes, which again, at 3 a.m., when you're creeping on somebody, is not recommended. She flips out a little bit, but nevertheless, she kind of lets him talk. They go back and forth. And at first, Juliet says, all right, I don't know if I really trust you. Romeo even makes the mistake of swearing his love by the moon, okay? Now, what that really translates to her as, if he swears, I love you so much, I'll love you no matter what, even if the moon, like, stays the same. He's like, how do I put this? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. He says that his love is as consistent as the moon. Now, I think what he was shooting for was to say, well, the moon is always in the sky and it never falls from the sky, so it's always there. But Juliet goes, hold up. The moon changes like every day / every hour. It's in a different spot. It's a different light every day of the week. And sometimes it's not even there at all. So she's saying, I don't know if you really love me that much. And he's trying to take it back and trying to say, no, I really do love you. And he tries to swear by all of these things. And ultimately, he's able to convince her that they are truly in love, to the point where there's this really awkward moment at the end when she walks away because her nurse is about to catch them, and she convinces the nurse to leave them alone. And Romeo is convinced that she's never going to come back. Romeo is convinced that she's gone inside and she's disappeared forever and that she doesn't love him and she's not going to marry him. But, surprise, Juliet comes back after all this time saying, I don't know if I can really trust you. I don't know if I can really love you. And she says, let's get married tomorrow at 9 a.m. No joke. Not even kidding. And Romeo is just as surprised as we are. And all of a sudden, just 4 hours after they met, Romeo and Juliet have decided that they're going to get married the next morning and they're going to make it happen. Now, you can read for yourself over break in Act 2, Scenes 3 and 4, exactly what the plan is, how they make all of this happen. When we get back from break, we'll read Scene 5. Actually, hold on. Let me just check that for 1 second. Yes, when we get back, we'll read Act 2, Scenes 5 and 6, which is actually when the wedding takes place. So already, we are at this point in this play, in just 2 short acts. All of this happens in like one day, basically. We meet everybody around noon on the first day, and by midnight, and now 3 a.m., and then like 9 a.m. the next day, they're married. So in 24 hours, they've met, they've fallen in love, and they're going to get married, and a lot of it happens right here during Scene 2 when they're having their first kind of private conversation on the balcony. Crazy stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of moving around in this scene, so on page 16 you are going to try and depict that as best you can. Divide it into 9 key scenes. I mentioned that there's a part where Romeo at the beginning runs away from his friends, jumps over the wall, hides in the bushes. Juliet is standing there like talking, and then Romeo steps out of the bushes to present himself to her, and then later on Juliet disappears for a second, then she comes back. So there's a lot of movement going on. Trace that through here. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know, and have a great day.